yeah, these exams might break you. So, go at your own risk. So if I tell you to close your eyes and imagine an accountant sitting at their desk accounting some accounts, you're not thinking of Ben Affleck, or maybe you are, but you're probably thinking of the same thing that I used to think of before I actually started working in this industry. And that's kind of why I want to do this video. So I want to talk about a couple of things I wish I knew before not only starting this job, but generally studying accounting, which is what I did at university, and generally my tunnel vision towards becoming a chartered accountant. So the first one might be a little bit obvious, but it wasn't to me right at the beginning of my degree and at the beginning of my job, really. You do not have to be a numbers person. If I could have £1 for every time I've told someone what I do or what I was studying at uni and they say, oh, you must be really good with numbers then. Oh, you must be really brainy. And I'm not putting myself down at all, but I am not a very book smart person. I worked really hard to pass my exams and get my degree, and I work really hard every day at my job, but I'm not necessarily some kind of whiz kid, and accounting isn't only an industry for whiz kids. Financial number crunching is just the language that you use all day at work, and it's just the language you use to communicate certain things. In auditing, it's the language that you use to communicate the conclusions you draw from testing, the support for financial statements. And there's a lot more logical thinking and evaluation involved with the numbers that you do crunch. And let's be honest, there's things like Excel and analytical methods and softwares, and they're taking a lot of the grunt work out of the actual accounting process. So realistically, you just have to be logical, be able to evaluate data, be able to read the data rather than just churn it out. And this brings me really nicely onto my second point, that there's a lot more to accounting than just the numbers. So with reading data and being able to evaluate that data, you're probably a lot of the time working as part of a team. You're a very crucial function of a lot of businesses, you're a very crucial function of a lot of teams. Arguably, I think that the relationships you build and your team and how well you work in that environment matter a lot more than the actual numbers that you work with and your ability to make sense of those numbers. Because the saying applies here that you're only really as good as your weakest link, and that really applies within the wider environment that you're a part of as the accountant or the auditor or the controller. And not only is that crucial for the functioning of the team, but also the functioning of you within the team and the wider company. So building networks and building relationships even with the client, and a lot of relationships outside of just your team. A lot of what you do as an accountant is to do with people and how well you can kind of communicate with absolutely anyone. Another point I really want to drill home is that there are so many avenues to pursue after you either get a qualification in accounting or even within accounting itself. Where you work really, really will impact your experience as an accountant, whether you're an external auditor at a big firm like me, or you're a small business accountant, you're part of the finance team in a startup that's in a really exciting industry. There are so many different roles you could have as an accountant that don't necessarily mean having to work with financial statements or controls or audit. And there's even areas like branching out into tax, branching out into financial consulting, and a lot of different functions like that. Because accounting generally gives you a very firm foundational set of skills that stem from a really deep understanding of businesses and how they function and how well they function. The fourth thing, I think I'm on the fourth thing, is that the path to accounting doesn't necessarily have to be really strict. You don't need to have as much tunnel vision as I did have on my journey to my current job. Now, I put myself down a lot from when I was applying to internships and eventually applying to grad jobs during uni because I didn't necessarily have direct accounting experience. I did manage to get an internship in corporate finance, and I genuinely thought this was a setback because it wasn't an internship, strictly accounting function in an accounting firm. And this is to emphasize the importance of transferable skills and not only just kind of throwing that word around, but understanding what those transferable skills are and that there are many skills that are transferable. This kind of ties in points from the point about relationships and that people skills are really important. And this is a kind of point that applies to really any career. There isn't a set way to get into this industry, and there also isn't a set way to work in this industry. And your past experiences and your future experiences do not define what an accountant is. The fifth point is actually really applicable to any job that's office-based or desk-based, but I think especially for an accountant, there's probably a limit to how much time you can spend not sitting in front of a computer, but it's that you really need to focus on your posture. And accounting is unfortunately a job where, you're going to have to stare at a screen all day, and whether you choose to do that sitting down or standing up is up to you, but you'll be looking at really minute data, you'll be looking at really large data sets, you'll be straining your eyes a lot, and it's really important as an accountant that you do not let yourself become one of those hunched over people at a desk that's just acclimatized to that environment. The sixth thing is that, work-life balance is a struggle, and it will be a struggle for a while, especially in certain industries. I mean, there's no denying the fact that busy season at the Big Four is tough. There are really strict deadlines you have to work to, and I do talk about this in my junior auditor day-to-day responsibilities video, but the factors that cause the overtime are kind of unavoidable, and everyone's in the same basket, and it is a real aspect of the job. Now, a lot of people spoke about it before I applied for my grad jobs, and it was kind of like this infamous period across the industry that everyone's going to be overworked, but your experience does vary between firm to firm, client to client, and industry to industry. So figuring out your own groove with, work-life balance and what works for you is a really important thing that you need to nail early, and I kind of wish someone mentioned the importance of, figuring out your own groove before starting, so that it was something that I was able to maybe focus on doing and getting right from the beginning, instead of going through 2 or 3 busy seasons to then eventually, and I would arguably say I've not even figured it out yet because I've got YouTube too, but finding something that works where you're not just burning out for 3 months straight. Another thing is that, and this might be controversial to my first point, in that you don't have to be super smart or super into maths and numbers. The accounting exams are quite hard, and for me, I was kind of prepared for them being really hard because with the way that the firm I work at works, we get a lot of advice and chats with years above who've completed the exams, and they will literally relay a lot of their experiences down to us, so we have a good idea of what to expect. And a lot of what to expect was always like, it's going to be hard, it's going to be stressful, but you're all doing it together, you have to put your head down, all the standard advice, which I've actually bundled up into another video, which I'm going to link here. And while your experience doing these exams, again, will differ from firm to firm, I was really lucky in that I got blocks of time off to study, so I could just kind of almost ignore a lot of day job work stuff while we were out at college, going to our lessons and doing our mock exams. We had that time to ourselves, and we had autonomy over that time. With smaller firms, you might have a much longer period to study for the exams, but you do have to work during the day as well, so it's more you organizing your evenings for that. And while I can't comment on that experience, the fact that I did get a block of time off to study, I think was incremental to me actually passing my exams and being able to dedicate myself to those exams. But the exams are hard, and they do take that dedication and time commitment to complete. While it's not necessarily something nobody warned me about, I think I was close to breaking point so many times that I feel like it was even downplayed when we were told about it. But then again, you don't want to tell someone, yeah, these exams might break you, so go at your own risk, because that's just off-putting. But now that I've done the exams and I know the opportunities that are going to be available to me from completing these exams, I'm really happy that I've done them. So, that's a decision that I've made, and I could definitely make another video about the opportunities that arise from, becoming a chartered accountant and what you could do with that. So if that's something you are interested in, just let me know in the comments. But that is it. Those are a couple of things that I wish someone had told me about before becoming an accountant, and I think the most important one for me is just the emphasis on people skills, because I was just so caught up in the fact that it was a very numbers-based career and very kind of niche career, but you understand a business so well and you understand business functions so well that there's such a broad range of next steps and areas that you could pick and choose to do well in, that you're not necessarily niched into being this really boring accountant in front of a laptop just playing with Excels all day, because that is definitely not the job. So I hope you enjoy this one, guys, and I'll see you next week.